I'm using some scrap clay for a fun little project. I'm making a fragrance roll-on bottle display. I'm going to use these displays at some permanent booth locations that I rent so that others can sample my fragrances easily. Shaping this into a nice, neat rectangle is quite difficult, but even more difficult is trying to remove the clay from the circles that I cut. After doing it a harder way, I figured out that I can just start to remove the clay with the cutter still in there, so there's a metal barrier preventing me from scooping up clay I do not want to touch. So as you can see, this was much easier. I was able to just kind of go in some circles and then pull up the clay. After I cut out all of those holes, I went through and made these edges as even as possible. And then I added in the bottles to be the placeholders, prevent the clay from collapsing in on itself, and making sure that they were big enough holes for the bottles to sit in. I really did take my time making sure these edges were smooth and even. The top ended up not being super even or level, so I decided to add a fun texture that helped blends those hills, those bumps, and makes it look more intentional. Removing the glass bottles after baking was tricky. I had to really wiggle it to break it out. After removing the bottles, I added some glossy polyurethane to give it a nice sheen so the mold can replicate that when I go to cast the resin. I love this part so much. I get to remove the tape and see how the mold turned out. Before removing the object, I like to use it as a cutting board to help clean up these edges. If you ever want to try casting anything, I'm going to add the silicone I love to use in my Amazon shop so you can find it. I've tried a few and this is my favorite one. Now that we have the mold ready, I can go ahead and cast the resin. I'm sorry I didn't film this part, it just was a busy day, but here it is. This is the result. I am so happy with how this turned out. I think it's beautiful. I'm gonna go and clean up those edges with an X-Acto knife before I take it to my booth. I really love how the texture turned out on the top. I think it's so pretty and adds a really fun element to it. I really wanted an easy way for people to try out my fragrances, and I'm just so happy I could find a solution myself that's super cute and works well with my booth.